What's up, everyone? Welcome to Be an Artist. I have a very special guest today. His name is Drew Alexander Forde, and he's a viola player. He's kind of the inspiration behind me starting a podcast because he used to have a YouTube channel called ThatViolaKid. And yeah, I used to just tune in every week, and he used to do those fireside chats with his friends and fellow musicians. And I used to be so inspired by them. I love hearing about people's process, people's ideas, what inspires people, all that kind of stuff. So, fast forward a few years, here I am, and I'm finally doing a podcast. And I'm so excited that Drew, agreed to come on the show. So, let's get into it. How did you get started with music?
How do I get started with music? So I think it started when I was in my mom's womb, like because they used to play Earth, Wind, and Fire. They used to like take her belly up to the speaker and just listen to music. Like my mom and dad are big music lovers, and so they would play Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Commodores and Kool and the Gang and like a bunch of 60s, 70s, 80s music, rock, jazz, funk, the whole gamut, disco. I actually kind of like disco music, which is like kind of wild. Like I really like Dua Lipa. She like reminds me of a lot of stuff that my dad used to play, which is hilarious. And what's interesting is like a lot of this music had string music it had string playing in the background. Um, but that wasn't really the main focus for me when I started. Then when I was born, my mom would put me in the crib and put me to sleep with Bach. Would play like orchestral Bach.
Yeah, German. I'm German.
You're German? Hey, shout out. Shout out. Like Germans have produced some crazy amazing composers in the past few centuries. Shout out. Y'all got it handled. Um yeah, so it was a lot of Bach. And then when I got older and went to elementary school, we had music class every day for all 5 years. I mean, sorry, 7 years, pre-K through fifth grade. We had music class, and it was by this woman named Mrs. Groover, which, I mean, what more of a perfect name could you have for a music teacher than Mrs. Groover, right? Sheesh. So we would just learn a little bit about music. We would learn about like we play recorder, and then we would like learn how to read music, like quarter notes and eighth notes and quarter rests. And we would play on instruments and sing and dance. And it was just like really like stimulating. And so I was like, music is fun. I associated music with fun. And back at home, we would listen to a lot of really great music. We would go to concerts a lot. But it wasn't until fourth grade that I had the opportunity to really like be a part of a set music group. And that's when I joined chorus. And then after chorus in fourth grade, I continued in fifth grade, but I also joined band. We didn't have orchestra in fifth grade. We just had band. So I wanted to play an instrument. I wanted to have an instrument I could call my own, like as long as I remember. Because I remember in elementary school, we would have music class and could only play instruments when we were in music class. We couldn't take the instruments away. And the recorder didn't spark joy in me or my parents.
I
So
was about to say.
they weren't ever like, hey, have you practiced your recorder today?
But isn't viola or all the string instruments, it's also quite difficult instrument to listen to beginners play them, isn't it? It's not like your parents were probably enthusiastic about you practicing
Well,
your notes.
I think, when sixth grade came around and I was able to rent and get a viola and go to class. I was the kind of kid that whether or not they asked me, I was practicing.
Mm.
Because like in class we had I was really competitive and I liked it. I had fun, so I wanted to be the best. That's the thing with me is that if something's fun for me and I like it, I just want to be the best at it. And it can be a little bit of a competitive problem, but I don't think that a competitive nature is necessarily negative. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be negative, because like you can also compete against yourself. It's like, I want to do better than I did yesterday, right? That's a healthy form of competition, right? So that's kind of how I approached it. And my orchestra teacher reached out to my mom. She was like, your son is kind of talented. He looks like he works really hard. And she was like, he is? I know he works hard, but like, he is? And after a little while, after a few years, I started getting the hang of it.
And did you kind of always want to do it professionally, or did that come later?
um Everybody, okay, so like I joined a program called the Talent Development Program of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and they provide private lessons with Atlanta Symphony Orchestra members to people of color who are in the program for free. They subsidize that for you. So I was able to get lessons um, at just a free rate, which was undoubtedly a game changer for me. My mom and my father divorced when I was 14. So we were pretty much a single. We had a little bit of child support for a little while, but then it became like a single income home pretty quickly. So we didn't have a lot of expendable cash. And the thing about pursuing classical music is it's expensive. Everything about it is expensive. It's time investment expensive. You have to practice so much. It is money like you have to invest money for instruments and strings and bows and bow rehairing and rosin and sheet music, private lessons and gas to get to private lessons and rehearsals. And there's a lot that goes into it. It's not a plug and play situation. So that was a godsend, having the subsidies for those lessons. But in that program, there were a lot of parents that were really adamant that and not just me in particular, but the kids in the program pursue the orchestral route, that they go and perform professionally, but in like the orchestral setting. And that never really sat right with me. I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to play professionally, kind of, but I also wanted to maybe go to school for science, because I also love science. So at that point in my life, as a 17-year-old, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Mhm.
Like, I just knew I liked girls, and I wanted to make out and play video games. I was a simple kid.
That order?
I had a teacher kick me out of her studio like the summer before senior year. And in senior year, that's when you audition. I think, is it the same for dance? Like, you audition like for school when you're in high school, you audition for dance for college your senior
Yeah,
year.
normally you do that in like your last year. So we have 13 years. So you would do that in year 13 or year 10, depending if you want to go to university or like a vocational school. But for me, I started really late, so nobody wanted me. I went to an audition and they said nobody will ever pay money to see you on stage. And then I just trained privately because I was like, you're not gonna tell me what I what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do what I want. So I never went to college.
Wow. You know, that's similar to what my teacher said to me. It's like, I didn't have what it takes to be a professional.
Mm.
She said to me in an email. And I just smiled to myself. You know, I don't smile because I think I did anything in spite of her, because I don't want to give her that power. I do what I want to do.
Mm.
Did it. So, and you very much the same, right?
I just really wanted to dance. Like I had to dance. Like there wasn't even an option. I obviously cried like for days after that because it was really hurtful. And also like, I had to try because my parents were like against dance. So like I had to do everything off my own back. So or like they're not against like me dancing, but they're against dance as a career because they don't think it's like a career. So I had to get, a job. I never had any weekends off as a teenager because I had to work. I had to take a train to Munich for 3 hours to take dance classes one way because I'm from like a village in the middle of nowhere where there's no classes. So to have that after like all the sacrifices that kind of sacrificed my whole teenage years just to try to hear that nobody will ever pay money to see you on stage. And for a second I thought they're right because they're the professionals, so I didn't know any better. But then kind of my inner, like, I don't know, like something happened and I was like, no, you're gonna do what you want to do. So I feel like it wasn't even a conscious thing. I just had to dance, and then I just never stopped dancing. And I was like, if I practice as much as everybody else, I'm gonna make the same progress no matter if it's called university or if it's in a dance studio. So I just found teachers, like private teachers, who were willing to take me on. And I explained the situation to them and just took it from there. Took me a while to kind of get over that initial shock of that. But yeah, my goal was because in Germany, college is 3 years.
Mhm.
So my goal was to work when I was 21, because that would have been 3 years after everybody else would have gone to college. And when I was 21, I booked my first TV show as a dancer.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so I kind of made it happen.
But you went off the beaten path, right? You didn't go
Yeah,
on the prescribed path that everybody had for you.
yeah. I mean, do you know Charles Mingus's documentary, The Triumph of the Underdog?
I know Charles Mingus, but I do not know of this documentary. Where can I find it? It sounds amazing.
It's on YouTube. So yeah, and I watched this at some point. I watched it like once a month just to keep me going. I'm like, because I always was like, okay, he's a black American in a world that he was half, like he was biracial. So everything was much more against him. A whole nation was against him, like a whole system was against him. And I was like, I just have a few idiots in a village against me. Like I can do it. And I always saw myself as an underdog. And then when I came across his documentary around 16, I think I watched it like every month. At some point, I could literally speak the words of what was spoken in the documentary because I used to watch it so much. But yeah, that was a huge inspiration for me to keep going. And the fact that I think naturally I'm relentless, and I also got ADHD. So I think like my brain's just wired for excitement and for like the ride on adrenaline. So yeah, I think that helped me.
For sure.
Yeah.
You definitely have something that is that drives you that a lot of people would give up. I do think artists are a little different in general
Mm.
because we don't subscribe to the lifestyle that is pre-prescribed to the average person, and we do so in defiance by trying to lead a life in a different way,
Mm.
because they train us to be pretty much worker bees for somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
You're building if you're not building your own dream, you're building someone else's.
Mm.
And there's nothing wrong with building somebody else's dream, and in some way we're all doing it. If you're part of a nation, you're helping build the narrative of that nation, right? um as an African American, like, I want to contribute positively to American history and American culture in a way that does good in the future, right? There was my friend Matt Bell, who's a violinist from he's in North Carolina, and he posted something on Facebook, like, I don't know if it's yesterday, if it was 3 hours ago actually. He says, one of the dirtiest lies we've told ourselves in music is that the world is a meritocracy, that if you get good enough at playing your instrument, the jobs will find you. So many people have been hurt by that. It's not true. Like, what do you think about that?
Um, yeah, I think what helped jobs find me was me putting myself out there. And I'm not the best dancer, but by technical means, or have not the most beautiful body or like the most genius ideas, but I'm there with 100% effort all the time. And I think that's what attracts people to me, because I have this like need to express myself, and I do it. And if nobody's there, I'll produce my own show. And if nobody's there to give me, like a gig at an event, I do my own gigs. And then people suddenly see me and they see this energy. And I think that helped me. I used to go to class all the time and used to think, oh, I just have to get a little bit better. So for the next audition, I'll be, a little bit better and more convincing. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, okay, now it's the next audition. Like I had 2 weeks more of training. And 3 days later, okay, I need to really buckle down for like 3 days now, because the next audition is in 3 days. It'll never happen. You're always just like a dog chasing its tail. Like what really helped me was to create with my own voice and to put myself out there creatively, but also surrounding myself with what I want to be surrounded with, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Oh, no, you're 100% like it's like you're speaking for me. Like whenever I do consulting for, college kids and, people who are trying to take their first steps into entrepreneurship. And like that's literally how I built what I have. I don't even think I have that much, but like what I've done so far, it's because I wasn't getting called for gigs. I wasn't getting hired for orchestras. I wasn't really doing anything, right? So instead of just sitting there being resentful, and yes, I was practicing, but what I was doing was I wasn't letting the time go to waste. I documented my process and the progress of it. And I think that like, but in doing so, I felt like I was creating my own opportunities, because whether or not people were hiring me, they were seeing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw. And so I think that's kind of like what you did too. It's like, you don't ask permission. Like, let the market decide. If the market doesn't want to pay you money to dance, let the market tell you. Don't let some snooty professional's opinion like alter the path that you want for your life. And like I had multiple people, reputable people, like a former manager of Hillary Hahn, tell me that like, you're not really there yet.
Hmm.
Really there yet. I would take this stuff down. You're not really there yet. And I was just so angry at her telling me that, because I knew she was wrong. And 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm talking at Juilliard and she's there speaking as well. And she hands me a business card and says she would love to catch up. And I laughed so hard on the inside. I was like, yeah, you're wrong. You knew you were wrong. Now you want to have a conversation. Get out of here, So yeah, it's that trust. I loved hearing that about your story, Petra. That's like, it's really heavy, but I'm so proud of you.
Even at the times when I used to think, oh, I have to be a professional dancer, I have to get paid to be a dancer, right? Because that's what you think when you're younger. But I hated doing some of the jobs I did, and I was like a professional dancer, which was supposed to be my dream. But I was doing Bollywood movies where the choreography is like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started creating, and everything came to me. So it's like, what's this book called? The Secret?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's what, it's kind of what The Secret says. But also, I wanted to say, because you said about entrepreneurship, you were the first person who mentioned that to me, because you said you had this in your vlog, you had this lunchtime entrepreneur class.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was like, and that was a huge eye opener for me, because I think in Europe, people don't teach art that way, that they would imply that you have to see it as a business. There's a lot of artists who like, oh, I want to do art. And I guess it's fair enough for the people, like whatever fits, you know. your lifestyle and your wishes. But I think there's not an emphasis. And as soon as I understood, no, Drew said I have to be an entrepreneur, or he at least mentioned that he was studying that, then I was like, okay, that kind of implies I have to come up with my own ideas. I have to build a brand. I have to have a website up and running so I can,
Yep.
I have to, and it kind of opened my mind also that I'm more than just a skill, that I'm the person behind the skill. So, because also a lot of people tell you have to concentrate on one thing, and I have a lot of interests. But as soon as I saw myself as like a whole unit, I'm like, no, I can still do my interests because that's part of my brand. Like I'm an amateur boxer, and it doesn't disturb my dancing because it's part of my brand. And there's like literally musicians calling me at jam sessions, like, chatting me up at jam sessions. It's like, oh, you're the boxer? And they know.
Exactly. It's like you're not even known for the thing that you do. The thing that you do the most, you spend the most time doing, is the least interesting thing about you. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Because I think everybody just wants a story.
There you go. There you go. Petra, you are preaching right now. Woo! Are you listening? I hope your listeners are listening to you. Sheesh. Like, there's a book I read. It's called The Storytelling Human. And I mean, I didn't really learn too much from it, but the takeaway was that if you just step back and look at human society, we are addicted and shaped by stories, and we have been inexorably shaped by stories for our entire existence, right? So if you learn how to shape stories for people, you will win. That is literally it. Like, who are some of the richest people on planet Earth? The people that tell elaborate stories. Like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It's not their companies that make them rich. It's the story they tell people about their companies that inspires people to utilize their services. What's the story of Tesla? I want to transform the world from using fossil fuels to using electric power and batteries. That's the story. That's what he is selling people on, the vision he's selling them on. What does Amazon sell people on? What does Jeff Bezos sell people? The idea that you can have whatever you want within 2 days.
Yeah.
As long as you pay me a yearly fee. But it's true. And so, what is marketing? It's storytelling.
Yeah.
What is branding? It's the story people tell about a product or a person.
Mm-hmm.
All stories.
What was the reason you started a YouTube channel in the first place?
It's super simple. I would get so many. So when I was in Juilliard, like I was doing a lot on Instagram. Like I was like doing technique tip of the day. I was doing this. I was doing that. I was taking pictures. I was having polls. Like I was doing Viola jokes. And in doing so, I was shooting a lot of information out there. So people naturally had more questions. So they would DM me questions, but they would DM me the same questions over and over and over and over. And I got tired because I would spend like at least 8 hours a day on Instagram, Petra.
What?
Years. Yeah. Like I built my brand with blood, sweat, and tears. I would like respond to every comment, every DM all day, every day. I lived on that app. So, but I mean, I don't regret it because it really helped me cultivate something beautiful. So what happened was I would like message back like an entire paragraph, like paragraphs worth of information. And then somebody the next day would ask me the same question. And I would be like, oh, who did I answer to? Oh, can't find the answer. So I type it all up. And so eventually I was like, okay, I need a place where I can just send them a link I could just answer this question once and get on with my life. I have to practice. So that's how Instagram, that's how YouTube started.
That's amazing. Nice.
Yeah.
And it took off from there. Like, how long did you end up doing it? Like 3, 4 years?
Yeah. And I mean, I still post stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
I have so many videos that I've like shot and kind of half edited and then looked at and was like, this is trash. And then just like not finished. So I have been trying to stage a comeback, but you know, the perfectionist in me coupled with no free time is like really preventing that from happening, but I'm working on it. But yeah, it grew. It felt slow, you know, but I now realize like it grew at a moderate pace. You know, I got to somewhere around 35,000 subscribers, and I built that, and I've been there since like 2018. So yeah, people are still subscribed. I know as soon as I start posting, I'm gonna lose a few, but you know, I'd be like, why am I still
Oh.
subscribed to this guy? What the hell?
When you start posting, everybody's gonna start practicing again.
Oh yeah, is that you think that's it?
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm currently finding, because it's like what you said, is like I'm really interested in other stuff too.
Mm.
But you know, I'm that viola kid, so if it doesn't have a viola on it, like people don't really care, you know. So I'm multifaceted, just like you.
I think everybody is. It's just not everybody pursues it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe. I think like it's always body, mind, and spirit, isn't it? So you need to have a balance.
I'm a Libra. What are you? When's your birthday?
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I don't know what that means. I'm not into like astrology or anything, so I don't know what any of the signs mean. I just know I'm like a horse with an arrow.
Yeah. I think Sagittarius tend to be stubborn and like very
Feisty.
yes, feisty and tenacious.
Mm.
And
I'm a
tenacious.
Saggy dragon. My Chinese star sign is a dragon.
Oh, nice. That's super dope.
Yeah.
I think I'm a sheep.
I can fry you.
What?
I can fry you.
Yeah. Here you go. On my leg.
I actually used to fire breathe, but that was not because I'm a dragon. I found out later that I'm a dragon. But like I had a phase in my life where I tried all kind of stuff, and I came past circus arts, so I started fire breathing for a while, and then yeah, there's that 2 years or something like that.
You are a dragon. I have no interest in breathing fire. Thank you.
The one time I set my hair on fire on stage in front of 2,000 people, and you know AIDA and the Triumphant March, they had fire breathers at that particular AIDA, so that was me. I was actually doing poi, which I wasn't very good at, but I had an agent back then, and she was like, "No, you'll be fine. Just 2 minutes." And I'm like, "Okay." So we were on tour, but we didn't have rehearsals, and they didn't travel me to every venue because they only traveled the fire performers for like relevant venues where they could do the pyrotechnics and fire. So I didn't have a rehearsal, was new on the stage. I was also much younger, like I think 21. No, I was 25. It was my 25th birthday the day I set my hair on fire. And so, I moved my hand too far back and it bounces off the stairs that went up to where the pharaoh sits. And the poise are kind of, the wigs are kind of this big and they're drenched in paraffin and burning. So it's quite a large flame. So it bounced off the stairs onto my head, set my hair on fire straight away because it doesn't take much to set hair on fire.
Yeah.
So here I am with two poise and I had to somehow transfer the point to the other hand because you have to keep them moving because the flame will come like all the way up and try to like distinguish the fire. In the meantime, the conductor, who was the only person who I could see, was cracking up. He was laughing. He was just like, he was almost dying. And like I saw people running backstage with a fire extinguisher. And I'm like, shit, please don't run off stage. This is
You
gonna
know who is almost dying? You. Like your head's on fire. Like what the hell?
so embarrassing. So, and then I stopped
Oh,
fire breathing after that.
this what happened after that?
Yeah, I stopped fire breathing. I was like, I'm done with
Yeah,
this shit.
you're like,
I don't want to do this anymore.
I flew too close to the sun. I flew too close. That's so fascinating.
Now it's funny, but you know, like 7 years ago, it was not funny.
Yeah, no.
It's traumatizing.
All the traumatizing stuff is like super hilarious like years later. But in the moment, it's like, no, this sucks. This sucks. I hate this. I love what you said about balance. Because you know, being an artist, yeah, you must be in supreme balance in order to find that creativity for like the muse to sit on top of you. And I'm curious, like, in your entrepreneurial journey, like, have you been learning about money? Have you been like learning about the capitalist game and like how to continually like build your brand and your business to like bring in more money and things like that? Like, is that has your curiosity led you there yet?
Well, I've learned more about personal finance during the lockdown
Me
than
too.
ever before in my life.
Mm,
Um, I haven't branched out too much because after the pandemic, I just started working. Like, I'm really interested. Like, part of the reason I started the YouTube channel, and I'm like at the very beginning, is because I think it helps me to get there, because it just widens your audience. And you know, I have certain goals that I want to accomplish, but for the goals to be accomplished, I need a certain reach, so people can actually watch it, buy music, buy tickets to my shows. And you know, I think YouTube's and podcasts and stuff like that helps. YouTube doesn't help yet. Podcast already helps because people that I've been talking to, they become part of my closer network because we spent like 2 hours chatting. So, you know, like I was just a dancer, and then I'm like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And suddenly we're like in really close contact, and we keep each other updated, and we do collaborations and stuff like that. So I think it really helps for your network. And another thing, I have this blog on a blockchain, and you get paid in crypto. Like people vote on your stuff, and you get paid in crypto.
what is it called?
So I used to be on Steemit, and now
Steam it, yeah.
now it's kind of screwed up because they changed like a lot of the rules. So there's not much. So now I'm on Hive.
Hive. Okay, I've heard of it.
So I've been uploading all my videos or like practice videos onto like DTube. They have DTube, which is also on the blockchain. And it gets reposted on Hive. So there's like a little bit of income coming from there, which isn't much yet, but I think it's better than nothing. It was like at my peak, I made like $350 a month with Steemit and Hive. And now it's kind of like around 100, 150 if I post like once a day, which is not bad, especially because like I used to just leave it there, and I used to put it all, just sit it there on in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I had this BlockFi account that used to give you like 8% interest.
Yeah, I have BlockFi.
It's not bad. Like I think they lowered the interest rates.
They keep lowering it, yeah.
But right now I was basically going back to school, so I used it. I guess sold off everything. I sold off before the crash though, so that was good.
Well done.
I sold when Bitcoin was like 58,000.
Nice.
So I've pretty much
So
sold
the more recent crash or the one in May last year?
before the last year.
The May crash, yeah. That was gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was just by coincidence. I didn't really time it. I was just,
Can't time it.
yeah, I just wanted to go. I'm in Barcelona right now. Normally I live in London, but I wanted to,
Barcelona.
yeah, see. And I just wanted to do like kind of invest in my training a little bit, because after the lockdown, I didn't feel the same. I didn't feel ready. Like my body didn't feel ready to perform, and I don't know. So I'm doing this tap dance program in Barcelona until April. So I'm tap dancing 40 hours a week right now. It hurts my shins and my hips. And I'm doing ballet and I kind of do some other stuff, but mainly tap dance because yeah, I can and I love it. It was so nice to also escape from London for a while. It's good to change location sometimes to like re-inspire.
That's true.
Yeah.
Change of scenery really changed a lot.
But do you want to talk more about crypto, blockchain?
Yeah,
I saw your
yeah,
eyes
of
sparkle
course.
a little bit when I mentioned blockchain.
Yeah, I've fallen deep down the rabbit hole.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, I mean, it's a thing. I don't know yet. Maybe if I made a pretty lofty goal for myself, and those there are goals like that scare you. It's hard to make goals, right? Because oftentimes we make goals that just aren't high enough for ourselves. So we kind of like, when we set a small goal and it's like, and we don't even meet that, it like feels really bad. It's like, man, I couldn't even hop 2 steps, man. Sheesh. I wanted to, like, when I turned 30 last year, I was like, I want to be, by the next decade of my life, I want to be financially independent.
Mhm.
So 5 by 40 has been I don't know how I'm going to get there. No idea. Like, because if I did, say what?
You got 10 years.
I got 10 years.
Yeah.
I got 10 years. But there's that voice in your head where it's like, well, there are people who work their entire careers and can't retire, but what's the difference between them and me? Well, they have a lot of them work everyday jobs. And so they have a capped salary. So I have an advantage there. And so that goal really scares me. And I'm discovering in my research, because I spend most of my days just like reading articles, watching YouTube videos, scoping Twitter, trying to look for, just learn about like decentralized finance, learn about blockchain, understand the protocols, understand the founders, the communities before allocating my capital. But I've been doing a lot of research, and I've learned so much. And so I see a possibility of achieving that goal. So I'm really excited. But what do you want to talk about in the whole crypto space? Like, there's so much. It's a whole.
I know. So one thing I don't know anything about, but I have heard musicians talk about is NFTs, like how to turn music into NFTs.
Yeah. You want to know?
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Can you turn music into NFTs?
Yeah. 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 Do you understand what an NFT is?
It's like a digital thing that's not a thing, but you can own.
When we spend so much of our times on our phones, right, doing this, like, where is our consciousness? It's not in the world around us. It's not listening to the bees or sniffing the grass. It's like looking at a fight on Twitter or looking at, like, a booty shaking on TikTok, right? So I think that, so would you say that if we are putting all of our attention into these digital spaces, these social media, that the social media isn't real?
Hmm. Uh, so I think it is real, and I also think the NFT is real. But I think to own, let's say you watch booty shaking on Twitter, and you turn that into an NFT. So you invest $20,000 into owning the image of the booty shaking on Twitter. What I'm wondering is,
Terrible financial decision, by the way.
yeah, but what I'm wondering is, how do you benefit from owning the rights to the NFT versus just watching it on Twitter for free?
Okay, so that is a great question. So here is the crux of the matter. Most of what NFTs are, you can make anything an NFT. So if you make anything an NFT, that means most of them are going to be useless over a long enough period of time. Now, you know what also ends up being super useless over a long period of time? TV shows. How many TV shows that you love in the moment when they were on, as soon as they went off, you forgot about them, and then they pop up on your news feed in some form of a meme, and you're like, oh yeah, that show existed. Wow. Right. And now how many shows and movies and things like that have stood the test of time that give you such strong nostalgia, that give the world strong nostalgia, to where, you know, if you could like get a picture with one of the actors, it would make your life. You would treasure that picture, right? The difference between those two things is that one show doesn't have a community. That first type of show, it doesn't really have a community. People aren't talking about it. People aren't making memes and retelling the story and all. It doesn't really have like a cultural, community-based value anymore. But something like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, something like Star Wars, Disney movies, those have real nostalgic cultural impact on our experience as humans and the stories we tell. Therefore, that's why people buy merchandise. That's why people buy shirts and posters and stuffed animals and action figures and cherish them, right? NFTs are just allowing us to do that with stories, with communities on the digital sphere. That's it. So you can look at an NFT like the first iteration of it is art. So like if you're not into buying art, don't buy art NFTs. That's my non-financial advice, financial advice. Just don't do it. If you don't understand it, don't do it. And a lot of it is a bubble because it's so new. But the way I see it materializing is there will be projects out there. So let's say that booty shaking picture, let's just go back to that analogy, right? That booty shaking GIF that you bought for $20,000. What if, you know, you were a degenerate who spent $20,000 on this, but if you owned this booty shaking picture, it allowed you to go to any strip club in America because it was one of one. And you're the only one in the world that has this, but it's a special VIP pass. It allows you that. Then it becomes a little bit more valuable.
Yeah, I think that would change, you know, perspective, because you can have a tangible thing.
And so that's the key, right? NFTs can allow people to have real world tangible benefits and community hierarchical structures, right? Because we just love doing that to each other. We love like flexing on each other, like we're better than each other, even though we're all human, right? So I think that in the future, especially when it comes to artists that utilize NFTs in a limited capacity and are able to deliver wonderful experiences to those who invest in those NFTs will have massive lifelong success. It's kind of like, at least in the music world, you know, selling a limited edition vinyl. You're only making 100 of them. And then once it's like the, was it is the Wu-Tang Clan album where there's like only 5 of them, and that pharmaceutical asshole dude bought it, but it's like super valuable because it's like only 1 of 5. Right? We've seen this in the real world. It's just collectibles. And what we can do is, now that they're digital collectibles, that you can verify you have a limited, scarce amount of them, and you can prove it on the blockchain. And what's really powerful is that very fact that you can verify that you do own this image, because in the digital space, you can just infinitely copy anything. So it creates a digital scarcity. Another analogy that I heard that's really cool is like, okay, you could let's say there's a Mercedes Benz in the parking lot, right? You can take a picture of that Mercedes Benz. You can like stand beside it and do thumbs up and have a bunch of selfies with it. But at the end of the day, do you own that Mercedes?
Mm-hmm.
You don't, because if you don't have the keys, if you don't have the deed, you don't have the title, you don't own that Mercedes Benz. And so like you can think of an NFT as like the car keys and the title proving that you have this car.
Mm-hmm.
You
So
know.
let's say let's say you record an album and you create an NFT. Like this is the only NFT for this album. I'm charging you £10,000 for it, but then you own this like only digital NFT of my album. Would you
Yeah.
still be able to sell it on Bandcamp?
Probably not. I mean, you wouldn't sell it on Bandcamp necessarily. You probably send it on an NFT marketplace, like Sound XYZ or Mint Songs
So
or
I mean, would your album only be this NFT, or would you still be able to like release it normally as like a physical product?
you can release it normally. You
So you're
can
not
put it on
limited to
Viola.
just have it as an
No,
NFT.
no, you can do it as like a limited drop. Now, is anybody gonna pay $10,000 for that? No, you're probably gonna sweeten the pot. You would. Also, being a smart businessman and businesswoman is realizing that you want to exchange fair value,
Yeah. Okay.
right? So if you're putting something out for $10,000, what can you get for $10,000? You can get a lot of really nice things for $10,000. You can almost pay a down payment on a house with $10,000. So if you do the comparative value, you don't want people to feel ripped off, because if all they're getting is just like an NFT that doesn't do anything, it just sits back and stares at them and they could just play it like an album. They just bought a very expensive album, right? I think that where the magic can come in is the exclusivity of it. A lot of people haven't really thought about it, but I sat down and I brainstormed a lot of use cases for NFTs. And like you could literally just make an album, release it on Spotify, and then sell the NFT, but then just make different cover art for each of the different NFTs. Right. So like when people pull up the song to play it for their friends, it's got a different album art. It's kind of like vinyl. It's got a different vinyl sleeve, but this is the only vinyl sleeve of this iconic album that exists. That's dope. And I have a bunch more, but I don't want to share.
All right.
I'm
How
trying
do
to.
you explain this cat, the crypto cat, the 1.2 million crypto cat?
Oh, the Nyan cat,
The NFT cat,
the Nyan cat, the meow 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 meow, or what?
one that sold for 1.2 million.
I
That's
don't know what you're talking about.
wait, I have to check it.
I don't know. I don't have all the answers. And look, there are people that'll pay for anything. There are people that buy. You remember that girl? She was on like 60-second fiance or something. It's some sort of reality TV show. She was selling her farts in a jar. She was farting in a jar and mailing it to people and sold it for like hundreds of dollars. Sold each jar for hundreds of dollars.
Really?
People, and yes, yes, people will buy things. It's interesting. So, yeah.
Everybody starts getting into it now, slowly, slowly. I hear it come up more and more. So let's see what happens in like 5 years. I think in 5 years we're really gonna know what's gonna go down. Like if the masses jump on, or if it's just gonna be like a little elite
I think
thing.
the masses are going to jump on because eventually we don't know when. It's more of a question of if, not is when, not if, because if you look at human psychology and trends over the past few decades, when the internet first came out in like the early 90s, most people didn't spend much time on it because it was very technologically, there's a lot of steps you had to do. It cut off your phone line. As soon as Wi-Fi and 4G and things like that happened, and cell phones with touch screens and internet capabilities came around, like a lot more people have bought into the idea of the internet, but that took decades, right? I think technology is accelerating and adoption is accelerating as we move into the future, but I think this is still nascent stuff. Most people aren't going to really care about it until it's too late. Just like most people didn't care about starting an Instagram page until it was already too late. So the key here is if you're an entrepreneur and you want to have the early mover advantage, like I can't tell the future, but like whenever I feel the same way about NFTs and crypto than I felt about social media. In 2013, 2014. So,
other than crypto, what would you say is the strongest social media platform right now?
oh, it's TikTok. It's not even close. It's not even close. It's TikTok. I don't use it. I think it's too strong.
You're just scared you're gonna get sucked into it, like on Instagram.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. I see it happen to my girlfriend. I see it happen to all my friends. Like they're just in it. And it's so fascinating. And the things it learns about you is spooky. Like
Yeah.
I've had multiple people like diagnose themselves for psychoses,
On
or just
TikTok?
not psychoses, but like they will have like conditions because like TikTok will know that they have like depression before they do, or ADHD before they do, and then they go and get it checked out at a clinic, and then lo and behold they have ADHD or ADD, or like it's crazy that it's able to aggregate all of that information and deliver more content to you that is like you, that relates to you. So I don't know if I want that in my life. I don't want an algorithm trying to like give me more of what I want. It seems like drugs. I do need to make content.
Huh?
I do need to make content for TikTok though.
What would you post? Just yourself playing or
Yeah. Financial stuff. I don't feel so. I'm kind of like, maybe in the future I'll like post financial content, but like how weird is it to like get advice from somebody who hasn't done it yet, right? Especially when it comes with finances. I think that's like so personal, and people are so like emotional about finances. Like I don't want to potentially steer somebody in the wrong direction as I'm learning.
Yeah. Interesting. Like one of the YouTubers from the States that I watch is Andrew Jig.
I love Andre Jick. I
And
love
I
him.
feel like not that he sold anything for wrong, but I feel like what you did with your experience at school, he was kind of documenting his journey in finance. And it was well researched, everything he posted, I mean, as far as I can tell. But it was kind of also just documenting what he went through at what time.
I agree. I love his content. I've
Yeah.
learned so much from him. Graham Stephan as well.
Yeah, I watched Gray and Stefan. And then I watched Ali Abdal, which is not strictly finance, but he's like productivity. Um,
What about Minority Mindset?
no, I don't watch it.
Oh no, Jaspreet Singh. He's really cool too. I've
Okay.
learned a lot about like capital efficiency from him.
Hmm.
It's like,
All right, I'll check it out.
oh yeah, Minority Mindset. He's dope.
Do you think money in the arts is a touchy subject because people don't want to talk about it because they're like, "What do you do?" I'm a musician. Ha, what? That's cute. What do you really do?
Mm, I think it's complex. It's hard to pick one reason,
Mm.
but arts are sustained by people with lots of capital. And yet musicians are resistant to learning about it. It's like, why are you trying to convince millionaires to invest in your project when why don't you just be the millionaire and invest in yourself and invest in your project? Like, what's wrong with that? Like, that was a disconnect that really broke me, because I saw in my undergraduate studies, the founder of my school wouldn't really have time to practice because he spent so much time trying to fundraise for the school. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. There has to be. I don't care. Like, and his playing suffered. Like, he's one of the best violins I'd ever heard. He was so good. He went to Juilliard. He was like, he was Grammy nominated violinist, so good. And I was like, wow, he's amazing. But then he didn't have time to do his calling, because, you know, his other calling, which was to start a school that like helped entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
you know, it took up all of his time, you know. So I like, and he wasn't poor himself. He was very well off. He has money. Running a school is a whole nother level of capital,
Mhm.
you know. So I was like, why? I made this distinction. It's like, well, I want to be wealthy, and I want to be wealthy from my art. I don't think you have to be a poor, starving artist. I think that is a story that we tell ourselves to try to absolve ourselves from the responsibility of learning about finances and how to allocate our capital and let it grow for us and work for us. And I don't buy into that. So um, I think that there is some of that resentment baked into the negativity that a lot of artists feel about money. But when you learn about money, you realize it's not real. It's real because you need to pay for things. But at the end of the day, there's not a limited cap supply of money in the world, right? If you provide more value, if you bring more to the world, you can bring more capital. And if you are breaking your back and providing a lot of capital to the world, you're being inefficient, at least with the capitalist systems that are in place in the world. You're being inefficient about how you're redirecting some of the value you're giving out back to yourself. You're not giving people opportunities to give you value back to you, you know. And that's what I've learned in recent years. And so I'm focused on maximizing that now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's good that there's people out there that kind of follow like this money mindset. I mean, like maybe not money mindset, but at least
Okay.
the type of mindset that you feel like you just as well as everybody else has a chance to become financially independent at 40. It's like, why him, not me? You know, that kind of thing. Because I feel like the world, like, I feel like we dwell in this collective imagination of the starving artist that's constantly inspired and sacrificing his financial well-being to his art form, that it's almost an expectation. So when you're trying to make money, it's almost, you know, people almost look at you like you're doing something wrong. Whereas you're like, no, I'm just trying to be an intelligent person in the 21st century, you know?
It's
Um,
different. We
yeah,
have the opportunity now, but back in the day, in Haydn's time, yeah, I'm not sure they had a lot of financial instruments. Like they didn't even have recorded music back then.
yeah. But they did have like sponsors and stuff like that. It was much more common to have, you know, a rich widow taking care of a musician.
100%, right? So now you can have 10,000 rich widows like funding, and they could be from different countries that you've never met and will never have to meet. You know what I mean? If you do play the internet game right. So I mean, now's the greatest time in history to be an artist,
Hmm.
but it's also super hard because the barrier for entry is super low now.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah.
You know this theory of 1,000 true fans?
Mm-hmm.
I read about that recently. I think Jazz Fuel put it in the newsletter. And I thought that was so interesting because I never thought about it in a way, but when I read it in the article, it's like, okay, 1,000 pre-orders to your album is $10,000. That's more than you need to produce your album plus PR. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
think that's how important it is also to kind of have a relationship outside your immediate circle. Your relationship, you have to kind of figure out a way how to communicate relationships with people that you don't necessarily know, but they still need to kind of feel connected to you, otherwise they don't follow you. I think it's really important for people to feel connected and to feel included in what you're doing. And I think that's why podcasts are a great way, because people feel like they get a little bit of you because they hear your voice talk. Like I felt like I know you before I've ever met you. I still don't know you. I still feel like I know you because I've spent so much time looking at your face, listening to your voice. You know, you seem like familiar. I kind of know stuff about you because you shared it with the world around you. And it was there for everyone that wanted it. And I think that can build relationships without actually you having to have a direct relationship with a person, but it still will make people feel included and passionate about what you do, and they want to support you and they want to be there and they're going to buy your albums, or you know, that kind of stuff. So I think that's where the internet's a great platform to build those relationships, because even 25 years ago there wasn't that option at all. You know,
No.
what are you going to do, send postcards to your fans?
I
Like,
mean, you could, but you spend a lot of time writing letters and mailing them off. You know, wouldn't spend a lot of time doing the art, right?
yeah. Well, how does your, other than the financial stuff, like and this, which is really interesting, which I encourage everyone to look up, including myself. How's your practice schedule look like now these days
Oh
that you're out of school
man.
and
So I will say, like after graduating, I still, for the most part, was practicing every day for 4 years. You know, still improving my game, and then even through 2020, I was playing every day. I needed it. It was my coping mechanism. But last year, I didn't practice that much, and this year, it's not going so well either. I think there are seasons, but you know, honestly, like there's only so many times I can play the same classical pieces before I'm just bored, man. And then also I've tried to collaborate with some people virtually. I'll like practice my part, I'll record it, I'll send it off, and then they won't record it and like send it off so we can make the video. So then that's kind of a bust. And
Mhm.
so I literally only practice for performances now. Like if I've got a performance, but last year I didn't have a lot of performances. So it felt kind of futile. I did start working on some jazz and like working on learning some solos. I learned 2 solos last year. I think I learned 3. I learned three jazz solos last year, which is like not great, but it's more than I'd ever learned.
Mhm.
And I'm planning to do more of that this year. And this year I'm practicing more extended techniques like chopping,
Mhm.
percussive bowing styles. So uh, the practice is coming more frequent, like just this month, actually, like the end of last month and this month. I have a few performances this month, but I've also been working on a series of string sample packs that I'll be selling digitally on my website for music producers to use, because that's one thing that I've noticed is like I make a lot of money from like most of my money is like remote recording, is recording for people, but what do producers do when they need some string sounds, or they just want to add a little bit of strings, but they don't have access to strings. They don't have access to capital to pay for the expensive string playing, and they don't have really good faithful string pads and things like that they can download off of the internet. So I was like, and I looked, and like there are no viola sample packs. They
Yeah.
don't exist. So I was like, well, who better to make them than ThatViolaKid, right? So let's make some sample packs and start selling those. It's a unique product that doesn't really exist yet, and I'm excited to provide that to the market. I want it to sell very well, but I don't expect it to right away. And so I'm willing to make 5 of these and market them accordingly and send them off and see what happens before I decide to go in a different direction. Yeah.
Do you record at home?
Yes, I do. Right here. I have my microphones right there.
Nice.
I sit literally right here and I
So you
record.
don't need any like sponges around you, anything to kind of capture the sound behind you. Everything goes right up and it's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's a condenser microphone.
Yeah.
It's not 6 feet away from me. It's about 4 feet, 3.5, 4 feet away from me. But I mean, I don't feel like I need to treat this room that much. And I honestly don't want to do anything in a rental like that. I'll have to talk to my landlord about that before I really get hot and heavy with it. But as you can see, like I have a lot of like uneven surfaces in my room. When I'm recording, I open up my closet so that the sound doesn't reflect back on me. The clothes absorb it. I've got stuff on the ground. I'm gonna get a carpet. It's pretty dry, and I've recorded for John Legend's album from my bedroom. I've recorded for Lovecraft Country, a TV show out here. Like I regularly record professionally for movies and Netflix TV shows and stuff like that from here. So I mean, if they're not complaining about the sound quality, I don't think I really need to do anything right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take the money that I earned from this to reinvest and get better equipment and keep building.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do now. Even editing. Like I remember when I had a part-time job at a TV station when I trained as a dancer, and they used to have editing suites. Like
Yeah.
a whole room for editing. And now you have a cable from your laptop to your screen, if you even use a screen, and that's what you use to edit.
Yep. It's crazy. Yeah, I've picked up a few skills over the few years, and that's I imagine as you're learning how to be a YouTuber, you're learning how to edit video, and those skills those are skills that pay. Those are valuable skills. So
yeah,
thankful.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, do you still teach?
I have one student. People come in from time to time, and I've like vacillated on this idea of making an online teaching course that I could then like branch out into private teaching should someone really want to pay for it. But I like it, but it's not my joy. It's not my full joy. I have friends who teach who have like 20 students, and that's all they do.
That's a lot.
But that's a decent income too. It's
Yeah.
a decent income, but can't really do anything else,
Is there anything you want to say to the viewers or listeners?
I just wanted to say thank you for listening to me ramble for 90 minutes. But I don't ever get to talk on my podcast, so it feels good to talk a little bit on somebody else's.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Can I plug my podcast?
Of course, yeah.
It's Faking Notes podcast. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. Apologize. And it's a podcast about we reveal through interviews and through the talks between myself and my co-host Trevor Bumgarner, we're both Juilliard graduates. We give the 21st century artists, entrepreneurs playbook through interviews, topical episodes about value, money, marketing, and more. And yeah, if you're a budding creative out there and you want to figure out how to do this entrepreneur thing, we're a great place to stop by and get some knowledge.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna also link it in the description box so people can click on it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was
Thank you.
so nice to finally meet you. A little more than just staring at you.
I'm thankful. This is fun.
I know.
And I never really get to talk to my audience like this. So this is amazing.